I have this idea that Koreans are like bats. And bats operate with sonar. Bats can't see, bats don't hear. They just have this sensory perception that a bat can fly really fast and pick a mosquito out of the air. Whatever, it can do anything, right? But bats just are hyper aware of everything in every possible direction. And it feels like Koreans are like that. That everywhere you go, you're just hyper aware of what's going on, and you're always aware to make things easier or better or whatever, not just for yourself, but for everybody else around you. In '65, Korea was one of the poorest countries in the world. So I was 5 years old. And look at in the per capita GDP, that means that on average, the average Korean made $108 a year. Okay? And this look at the countries that had higher per capita GDPs. Korea was poor, man. Niger was higher than Korea. So you have to hold in your mind this idea of Korea being a poor country, the sixth largest superpower in the United States, and like no country in the history of the modern world in any way has been able to do this, has moved from being such a poor country to being such a wealthy country. So when you think about Korea, like you think in mind this thing that has happened in this peninsula country that now has a population of about 50 million people, that they went from one of the poorest countries in the world to one of the wealthiest in 60 years. Go to the next slide. So here's U.S. News and World Report, best countries. Look at cultural influence, 7th in the world. And entrepreneurship, movers, like a country that moves, man, 5th in the world. Country that's moving things around the world. And you can't really, so we're talking about culture and we're talking about what's cool and what's not cool. It's like, here is this small country that is pushing things in a way that no country has ever been able to do. Okay? So next slide. This innovation index, just look at 10th overall in terms of innovation. So, I'm putting this up here because we're going to have this conversation about Korea, and I want you to hold into context what Korea, who they are, this nation is today, and who Koreans are today. So, knowledge creation, and it's unbelievable, really. As a sociologist, to me, it's absolutely fascinating. Okay, go to the next slide. There's this term called Hallyu, and it started to be used about 20 years ago, and it's the Korean wave, and what it references is Korean culture, sort of blasting off, or going around the world. It's a wave that's crashing on the shores all around the rest of the world. And it's kind of like a tsunami. And a tsunami is a wave that all the power and the energy of a tsunami is underneath the water. You don't really see it. And so Korea has just sort of Korean culture has landed on the shores of cultures all around the world in these areas. And so I'm going to give, and nobody really saw it. It just happened. I've been watching it in this class for the past 20 years. I've been talking about Korea here and Korea there, but suddenly Korea just took off in ways. And remember, one of the poorest countries in the world. And you all know something about Korea. Everyone hears about Korea. You hear something, but people don't really know what it is. A lot of people. Go to the next slide. So here, this is an example. Think about music, right? So 19 of the 20 best-selling albums last year were put out by K-pop musicians. That doesn't mean songs, right? Doesn't mean the largest concert attendance, doesn't mean a lot of things, but it means albums, full EPs, extended play albums. 19 of the top 20 selling albums. In this group right here, this is 17. So 17 is one of really the top groups in Korea today. And so look at them, man. That's it, my friends. 17. K-pop. And if you don't really follow K-pop, if you're not really aware of what K-pop is, understand 19 of the 20 best-selling albums were done by Korean K-pop musicians. So you may not know, but this is a whole cultural phenomenon that's happening. So, but here, what I find is so many people follow K-pop. Really, it's like a thing that they do, and with other fans, man. Okay, so here's the other thing. This is where we're gonna next slide. This is where we're gonna start the conversation. The U.S. culture has a very individualist-oriented moral order. It's what really drives our thinking about what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad. Meaning that what is good for the individual is what is good for the culture. So the culture operates in a smooth way, in an effective way, if the individuals in that culture have an opportunity to express themselves in the ways that they want to express themselves. Okay? So this is like individualist orientation. What is right for me is what is right. Now, it's not entirely, right? It's shaped that way. So it tends to be what is right for me is going to shape what is right. It's going to shape my actions, my thinking, my way of being in the world, more than what is right for the community. In East Asian cultures and communitarian-oriented cultures, and especially in Korea, but also we see it in the Arab Middle East, we see it in certain parts of African cultures, but definitely in Korea. What is good for the community is what is good for the system. So when I'm acting, when I'm making a decision or I'm thinking about how to act in a certain way, I'm thinking about, wait, hang on, what does the community need? How should my actions affect other people in the community? How do other people come into play? I'm thinking about other people. Right and wrong is not just what I think is right and wrong, it's what we think is right and wrong. In the individualist-oriented culture, what I think is right and wrong is really what's going to shape what is right and wrong for me. In the West, coolness emerges out of expressing your individualism. Okay, coolness emerges out of that. So when I'm talking, you're talking to Chris, talking to Maureen. We're thinking about coolness and like what's cool here in the U.S. and the black community and stuff. It's about individuals expressing their individualism. But now you've got this other culture that is becoming very cool, Asian cool, Korean cool, right? Korean cool in all these different ways. That Korea is becoming this cool place, but yet it's doing it from this communitarian orientation. But the first question is like, what's it like to live with such a strong awareness that you're highly attuned to other people?
First of all, like since like everything is like connected, so I think about what like other people think. So that like I wouldn't be like like an outsider like in that sort of community.
So you're always thinking about what other people are thinking to be an insider?
Yeah, like kind of, yeah, like not to be like considered as someone that's weird or like it's odd.
Then I want to also like ask a flip question of how is it like from being collectivistic society to come into individualistic society and have to deal with the people who just do whatever they want?
Okay, wait, hang on. That's the next question, bro. Hang on. That's the next question. Go back to my question. How is it to be so hyper aware of other? That's a cool question, by the way. Hyper aware of like your other people all around you.
When you're very highly attuned to other people, it sort of keeps you in check. Like there's a very high standard in the society, in the way you dress, like in the way you act in public, and all these things. There's you don't want other people to look at you badly, so you sort of act better in a way.
So wait, David said you don't want people to look at you and think you're weird or like you don't fit in. Is that what you mean by badly?
Yeah, I totally agree with David.
But that's what you mean by badly?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, say more. Go ahead.
But, I'm a Korean American, so I was born and raised here in America. So when I go to Korea, I feel like there's a very big sense of an insider and an outsider. And as a Korean American, there's a certain level of feeling like I'm an outsider, and it's very hard to become an insider.
Do you have to like prove yourself to Koreans that you're really that you're not one of these individualistic Americans who's
Yeah. I need to definitely prove myself to Koreans that among various things, like that I could speak the language and that I share the common ideals of Koreans about community rather than just the individual.
Jun, how about you? How would you answer the question?
I don't know. Agreeing to the common direction, there is some type of consensus building is very important. If you are not agreeing to that, then you may not be considered as cool. One example that I can give you is that in the past we had small restaurants, and those restaurants have a limited number of menu items, and it's small staff. It's maybe one owner maybe is cooking also at the same time serving and so on. In those cases, when there are some other guests, and customers, and you are with a group of, let's say, 4 people, then what happens there is that somebody in the group volunteer for all 3 others, or ask them what they want to eat, and try to come up with one menu item by considering the business and the short-staffed restaurant, and also considering their how can I say, their preferences. So somebody volunteers to go for one menu item for all.
So it's not, hey, we're customers, we deserve to be waited on, like, hey, speed up, whatever. It's like
Right.
Once you go into the restaurant, you're automatically thinking about the owners and the workers in the restaurant.
Right. Yeah. So
man, that is such a
that
cool
happens. That happened a lot in the past. I don't know these days.
I have this idea that Koreans are like bats. And bats operate with sonar. Bats can't see, bats don't hear. They just have this sensory perception that a bat can fly really fast and pick a mosquito out of the air. Whatever, it can do anything, right? But bats just are hyper aware of everything in every possible direction. And it feels like Koreans are like that. That everywhere you go, you're just hyper aware of what's going on, and you're always aware to make things easier or better or whatever, not just for yourself, but for everybody else around you.
It can be tiring at times. Well, sometimes because we agree that that would be a desired direction, we don't sacrifice much by giving up on my preference, for example, for food choices.
Yeah.
So I get to enjoy the food that's selected, and the owner is happy and everybody's happy. We can finish our meal quickly. So there's
bali. So
Yeah.
it's fast. So but what the idea is though, everybody's happy.
Right.
How is it to be here when it's a different kind of world of individualism? That's your question, right? Was that it? Yeah.
I was just curious. So since you were so aware of people, now that you're in a society where people really don't care about other people,
Not that they don't care about
not
other
that they-
people.
but less aware in the way that you guys are. Like, how do you guys live with it, honestly?
Yeah, so I also agree with that. And like, since the U.S., especially like here in Penn State, there are a lot of people from diverse backgrounds. So a lot of people are very different, and that's the biggest difference from like between Korea and the U.S. Since I used to live in a very uniform society. Like there's like a really strict standard, but here in the U.S., I feel like this standard is like more wide, or like there are multiple standards. So that's why I feel like people don't really care much, like like relatively speaking.
Do you feel that?
Yeah.
Because you feel like they're not hyper vigilant about that. Do you have a similar feeling when you're here? Like, how much are you living here as an Korean American? How much because I know you, and I feel like your Koreanness follows you, right? You are very Korean. And how much of it are you kind of negotiating on a regular basis?
Like I wouldn't say I'm that Korean. I'd say I'm about 50-50. So I share a lot of American culture as well. And when I'm here in America, I definitely feel more free to do whatever I want without caring about what other people are going to think of me. I don't have to really follow the mainstream because I could do whatever I want and there's going to be a group for me that shares similar interests.
How often do you find yourself thinking, hey, I want to be more aware of these people around me, but then, wait, but it doesn't matter because I'm in the U.S. Like, what do I care? It doesn't matter,
I sometimes find myself thinking about other people's, like I care about other people more than I should be here in America. One difference between Korean and American culture is that in Korean culture, you want to be humble. So even if you're like good at something, you don't want to say that you're good at that. Say like you're really good at math and science, then you say I'm really good at math and science. But in Korea, you don't want to say that. You want to say I'm not really that good. But in America, it's like if you find yourself at an interview for a job, basically what you're doing is you're trying to make yourself look even better than what you actually are. So if you're good at math and science, you want to say that and you feel proud and you want to almost like exaggerate that you're better than you actually are. And that's very different from Korea, where you want to try to be humble and you want to make yourself look smaller than you actually are.
So if you do that in Korea, right, people are going to look down on you, right? I mean, they're going to wait, what's wrong with this guy?
Right, yeah. They feel maybe if I do something I do in the US, they may feel that I'm arrogant. So that's something that I need to watch out for.
Always,
yeah.
This statement right here, don't be the nail that sticks up, right? Can you say what that means? Like that. This is a saying, this is a common saying, like don't stick out.
Yeah, those stick out get hammered, right? So
if you stick out, you're going to get hammered.
So that happens a lot in Korea. So that's why we try to be aware of how we are seen by people. But if you are naturally talented and really good at, and you get to stick out, and you will be noticed by people. But that's natural process. If that's done naturally, without you trying to stand out, then that's okay.
So K-pop music is all about groups, and it's the group is what it is, and there's often a leader, right? So 17 is really 3 different groups, and then of 13 members, and then the 3 groups is 1, 2, 3. That goes to 16, and then 17 is the whole group. And like you don't necessarily know who the leaders are, right? Like that's not the thing. You don't put yourself out there, and that's why we see this at every level of Korean culture. Don't stick out, man. Don't be special. So how do you be cool? How do you be cool as a Korean if you can't stick out?
Korean coolness is not about sticking out. So that I think there is some fundamental difference in terms of the conceptualization or understanding of coolness.
How do you know who's cool and who's not cool?
People who are cool, like considered as cool in Korea, I think there are people who are being recognized by a lot of people. So like it could be like many things, like maybe like if they really dress well, then it could be recognized and then like be considered as cool, or maybe they were like really smart.
Yeah, but everybody dresses well and everybody's really smart, man. You know what I mean? So come on, like how do you then find? Are there subtle ways in which Koreans try to stand out without really showing people that they're standing out, or are you really not trying to do that? Because in this culture, the idea was like, oh, come on, man. Like, come on. You got to be trying to be special in some way. Or not. Maybe not.
Well, I think like Korean people want to try to stand out, but it's not like in the other countries. Like, I think Korean people want to stand out in a certain boundary, like where it could be accepted as like not arrogant, like humble enough, or like.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it would be, go ahead.
Yeah, that's very difficult and complex. So to be stand out without, how can I say, being easily noticed. But people know who is doing very well and who should be admired and so on. But that doesn't come from the person. As you mentioned, I think it should be accepted or honored by other people.
So it's like an accident. It's like an accident, right? You just
could be, but some people who are good at standing out can maybe create those environment for them.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
Got you.
When I went to Korea, sometimes I get frustrated because everyone seems like they're the same. They're acting the same. And I sort of want more diversity because I was, raised in America and there's so much diversity here. I feel like Korea is like the opposite. There's like people want to conform. So, sometimes I got frustrated with the conformity.
Yeah. And there's something really cool about that, by the way. Which is why, listen, when you think about everything I said about Korea, the reason Korea went from 1965, earlier, but whatever, being one of the poorest nations in the world to being one of the wealthiest is because of conformity, because you work together, man. You didn't build that. Korea didn't become Korea by all these individuals doing it on their own. They did it by everybody working together in concert. Yeah. Yeah, it's really fascinating.